Good morning. Welcome to their ICEV presentation, Rapport the Missing Link. I'm your presenter, Jason Brooks. Thank you for joining us this morning or this afternoon. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we can learn something together. After this presentation, there will be the live question and answer period during the actual conference. So I look forward to seeing some of you there and meeting you there. The old adage from Theodore Roosevelt says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. This is true of adults and even more so for children and students. This session is designed to allow teachers to take a more meaningful look at their students, employing them to look beyond the student uh, as just a student, right? Just as a number, as an individual in the classroom, but as an actual person. Teachers will be able to understand rapport and along with its importance and the benefits, as well as tips and strategies to build and maintain rapport with students. With the impact of COVID 2019, this is more important than ever. Not having kids in the classroom and having that personal connection truly, was missed this past school year. But uh, this session and going back into the classroom definitely will help, and I'm looking forward to getting back into the classroom. What defines rapport? It is a close and harmonious relationship in which people are concerned about not only themselves but the feelings of others, and then they also communicate well. When in the classroom setting, this is the relationship between the teacher and the student, in which both the teacher and the students are not only concerned but responsible for the feelings and ideas that they communicate to each other about each other. In this, there's an intentionality to develop a relationship with the student, getting to know them beyond what their name is, uh, what they present, but just who they are as a person. Well, how do you build a rapport? Awesome question. Awesome question. Well, it starts with a smile. What happens when someone smiles at you? Of course, the natural tendency is to smile back. Um, but how does that make you feel when someone smiles at you, right? You can be having a bad day and it can change, your mood, your attitude. Even for yourself as an individual, if you smile, it can just subconsciously make you feel better, right? According to Dale Carnegie, who wrote How to Win Friends and Build Influence, it gives the impression that I am happy to see you, that you make me happy, that I am glad to be in your presence. He also mentioned Charles Schwab, in which Schwab told him that his personal smile was worth $1 million. Right? It makes sense because Charles Schwab was actually worth a lot more than just $1 million, a couple of them. Uh, but just the importance and the power that a smile gives is hard to measure within words, right? That's not something that we can numerically quantify, but nonetheless, it is just as important. And this is true not only for our students, but this could be true for our coworkers as well. The truth is, we don't always know what we are dealing with as individuals, right? We assume everybody's well and good, but and even when we ask questions, we don't always get the best honest response. But a smile, even the smallest of gesture, uh, can mean the world a difference. So after a smile, the name is probably the second biggest um, thing to use to build a rapport. In the same book, Dale Carnegie interviewed a gentleman by the name of Jim Farley, who was a politician. Um, he is the one who helped Franklin D. Roosevelt get elected. Carnegie said, "I heard you can tell 10,000 people by their first names," right? Farley replied, "No, you're wrong. I can call 50,000 people by their first names." The name is far most important, significant thing that a person owns, right? Beyond anything else. This is what identifies them. This is what sets them apart. This is what makes them unique. This is what brings with it reputation. This is what brings with it judgment. This is what allows others to even acknowledge or identify you as well. So the name is so important, especially when we start getting into the pronunciation of names and how they're called. So it's important to know how to pronunciate, someone's name. And if you're unsure, the best thing to do is to ask how to pronounce it. How do you feel when somebody gets your name right or wrong? Right? Uh, how do you remember that? Do you remember the first time somebody got your name completely wrong, and they didn't care that they got it wrong? They just kind of shrugged it off. How did that make you feel, or how did you feel when they got it right? Right? Um, whatever feelings that we invoke, right, based off certain actions and responses, we can imagine that the students feel the same way. Um, Again, just pronunciation makes a difference. Don't make an assumption about how to pronounce a name. Just ask if you're unsure. You can even clarify, hey, I might mispronounce it, but please correct me if I'm wrong, right? Or go with a nickname. Um, Using the name is also important beyond the classroom. So when you see students in the hallways, or if you live in the same area, same town, seeing them in the grocery store, acknowledging them by their name can mean the world to them. And this is at any level. Now, of course, the older they get, high school and such, they may not want to claim you as a teacher or even knowing you. Sometimes they even don't even recognize us as people, right? It's like, why are you at the mall or why are you at the store? It's like, well, I am a person. I got to eat. I have to shop, etc. Right? Um, but smiling and giving a name can go a long way. Third is just simple, effective questions. These are the kind of questions that kind of just help build rapport. But the biggest thing is the intentionality in which we ask, right? Um, so you don't ask, and brush a response off, but you actually ask with the intention of getting a response, with a listening ear, right? And this helps take it beyond. I can see you, I can identify you by face, I can identify you by name, but now I'm taking it, making it more personal, and I'm actually trying to get to know you. But make no mistake, it's not about the question. It's merely a means to an end. It's about the caring, willingness, and the interest that comes from you listening. Um, the most important part is the listening. And then we can demonstrate listening by feedback, right? To show them that we actually hear and we're taking in what they're saying. To take it a step further, we can incorporate these answers into instructional moments, encouraging moments, and even small talk moments between classes to help solidify this idea or this concept. We can also ask questions such as, "How are you doing? How's your morning going? How's your afternoon going? What did you have for breakfast? What did you have for lunch? Do you have any big plans for this weekend? Any big plans coming up soon? How are your other classes going?" I mean, there are 1,000 questions that we can ask and put into this categories. But again, the question is great, but it's more so about the response and the listening and the attention, the one-on-one that the students get. That is the most important thing. Now, granted, for before a class, you may not have time to engage your students this much, but just trying to find moments within the course of the day, the structure of the lesson, to even ask these questions, or maybe it's a do now or an exit ticket, or just trying to find meaningful ways to incorporate these. The next way to help build rapport is finding out what the students are interested in. What are their hobbies? What sports do they play? What talents do they have? So identity is defined by Merriam-Webster as a distinguishing character or personality of an individual. So this is what helps, again, other than their names, helps discern or distinguish them between from other people in the class, right, from other students, and allows you to close the gap by association with other students, right, to identify with them. Students are more than just students. They are young people with dreams and goals. That even if they don't know what those dreams or goals are right now, they still have them, or they will at some point, right? Um, so take a group of strangers, right? We put all of them into a same room. How are they going to group themselves? Well, they're going to find some kind of commonality. They're going to find some kind of common ground in which they can identify themselves, right? To which they can group. Most common, this is often done by race or color, right? You go into a room, you have people, you're going to gravitate towards people that seemingly look like you, right? And then we can start going further into personality, interests, clothing, attire, jewelry, or some kind of other distinguishing factors or identifier characteristics that are there. But students are the same. We have to find those common areas, those common tasks, thoughts, ideas, interests, etc., to be able to identify with them and get be on one accord. If it doesn't exist, then we have to create them. So I don't like heavy metal music. I can't stand it. But I had a student who did. And so, in order to build that relationship, I did a little research into heavy metal music and looked up a band or two and a song. So then, next time I saw him in class, I just kind of brought this up, and one of them just happened to be a band that he liked. So I was like, hey, so he was able to tell me so much more about the band. Now, did that change my opinion about heavy metal music? Do I go listen to it now? No, but for that moment, he felt important, and he was able to share something that was meaningful to him. And I listened with open ears and attentive and gave feedback like I was, paying attention, to indicate that I was paying attention. We can also use this within the content that we're teaching. Students find it a little easier to complete assignments with the content and subject matters that are interest to them. Sometimes it's easier with certain courses than others, but if we can teach through COVID-19, then surely we can teach through anything. But yeah, just putting it within the lesson. For example, I have sports and entertainment marketing. I have some students who don't like sports, so we had to find other areas to entice them and to use them to do the work. Excuse me. Intentionality and effort. We have to be intentional about building these relationships. It's not something. Well, I take that back. Sometimes it is organic, meaning that throughout the course of a class, like just these relationships begin to build. But that's going to be based on personality, right? So not all of us have that personality that is that open, that inviting to where we can have that we feel open enough, and then the students who feel comfortable enough to help reciprocate that. But nothing can be accomplished without intentionality and effort. In order to build and maintain these relationships, we have to be intentional about them. Make sure we know the student's name, that we can pronounce it, that we can say it, that we identify some of those interests, that we can call them. Um, and I understand some of you thought to yourself, I do that, right? I'm sure you do. But where does the line stop, right? Most of the time, that line stops with people who look like or even speak like you. Sometimes it will carry over to people you like or favor, or even people you are trying to save. This is often viewed as favoritism by other students and has a negative impact on the relationships that you are trying to build. This can even be mentioned in reference to how students are disciplined or reprimanded in your class for disruptions or breaking of rules or doing something they're not supposed to do. Do you speak to all students the same way? Do you address them the same way? Do you even address the same things with all of the students? Do you use what you know about the students against them? These are all things that we may not, initially think about in our discussions or interactions with students, but these are things that always are impactful and discerned to some degree by students, especially when they feel like they are on the outs and that the relationship between the student and the teacher is not there. Again, we have to be intentional about our discipline rules. So let's be intentional about the effort that we put forth in trying to build these relationships. The last one is encouragement. Encouragement can go a long way. You think about a time when you were down and needed help, and that's whether you were a child, whether you were a student, whether you're an adult, right? And somebody gives you that encouraging word that you need, and how much more lifted, how much stronger, how much more powerful do you feel in that moment, right? How much more fire is there to go on or keep going or to go further, right? To not give up. So the students are the same way, and not just about academics, but just in their lives in general, right? Those interests, those sports and things that we talked about earlier. Not spoken or said with any intent of receiving anything back in return, but just a genuine word, phrase, or anything to help build them up. Just to let them know that you care, that you believe, that you've been listening, that they can do it, that they can be successful, that their past doesn't matter, their skin color doesn't matter, their parents doesn't matter, who their parents are or who they are not doesn't matter. That they can accomplish anything, whatever they set their mind to, that they can do. Knowing the students helps put this in the correct context, and it allows you to tailor the encouragement to fit the student, because each student, they value different things, and so that encouragement is going to look and sound differently for each student. Well, how does a report impact instruction? Well, first, participation. When students know that you care and that they're not just a number to you and that you have their best interests at heart and everything you do is for them, they are more motivated to participate and at least, answer when they're called on. Doesn't guarantee it, but they are more likely. And you're not going to get as much of a negative reaction when you say, Johnny, can you answer a question? Especially with this with COVID, right, in remote teaching. I'm sure most of us experienced a lot less participation, whether that's from the cameras being turned off or for responses to questions. It's a lot different being in the classroom. Um, but the greater the relationship, the more likely they are to respond. It also helps with designing a lesson and even the practice of the lessons or the content that you are trying to teach. You can use this information to design lessons that capture your students' attention and keep them engaged during the lesson. You can even use it for further demonstration of content that you are trying to teach. For example, in sports and entertainment marketing, I did a lesson on ticket prices. Not all students are interested in basketball or football or even sports at all. So we incorporated theater, musicals, and things like that. Music itself, like concerts and such, going to the movies, going to festivals, going to fairs, any event that carries with it a ticket. And then we talked about how individuals come up with that ticket price, things to consider, and when they're making it, etc. And so we were able to use different venues, different topics, different ideas in order to help teach and facilitate that lesson. It also encourages engagement and ownership, right? Students being buying into the fact that they are an important task or they're an important part of their own learning. That they can't just rely on us as teachers, but they have to have that they play a vital role, a vital part into their own learning. It also helps with correction and reprimand. Um, when there's a relationship, it's easier to talk to a student and correct them. When there's no relationship, then we just give the correction any kind of way with no thought to how, why, or whatever, and then it often ends in a disruption and a distraction, not only for that student but for you as a teacher, and even for the other students who are within that class. So, what are the benefits? Again, we talked about participation, both for the student participating in the class and the lessons, but also them participating in their learning and taking ownership within it. Um, Even to the point to where seeking feedback on lessons. If there's relationships there, then you can ask students how well the lesson went. Did that lesson go well? Or did it not go well? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Then you can honestly take their feedback and redesign the lesson for the most effective, to make it the most effective lesson that it can be, versus uh, being offended because a student decided to give feedback and they didn't like the lesson. Because we've all been there, right? You take the time, you plan this lesson, you put your heart and your soul into it, and you just know this is going to be the best lesson these kids have ever learned. They're going to remember this 30 years from now and tell their kids about it. And then you give the lesson and it just falls on like deaf ears. It's just uh, the kids are bored, they're not engaged, they didn't get anything out of it, and you're just like, oh man. um, but it allows you to revamp, take their feedback, and create better lessons. We talked about engagement, we talked about ownership. It also helps build self esteem. Students who know they have a champion, someone who cares for them, who is looking out for them, who is there for them, able to be more positive. They have more positive self concepts. They don't feel as isolated, like failures, or like they can't do better than what they are right now. But when they have one, all of that can be reversed and changed just with a simple word, smile, etc. Every child has the most potential in the world, but can they see it? Do they know that? Do they actually believe it when they say it, when you say it? It is our responsibility to assist them with recognizing and grabbing hold of that fact, of that idea wholeheartedly. Assignment completion and attendance. Students are more likely to attend class, especially in a remote setting, um, if there's a relationship there, if there's a rapport. I had a student this past fall who came to my class but did not go to any of their other classes. I also found this to be true in my class. I had students who were going to another class that they felt was more important and they needed towards graduation. They didn't really need mine, so they were just like, not going to come. But relationship definitely helps within that. It can also help students stay on task and complete their work. And again, provides a positive way to bring correction and to get them to complete missing assignments or attend class regularly. All right, last question. How do you maintain it? Um, well, one, just greetings, right? Somebody passes you in the hallway, you say, hey, good morning, good afternoon, how are you doing? And then you can ask some of those questions that we kind of mentioned earlier, and then wait for the response. Um, Again, if it's sincere, it makes all the difference in the world. People can tell, people can discern whether you are genuine or not, especially children. So if they can feel the insincerity there, then you are more than likely going to get a reaction based on that. Again, asking your simple questions about topics of interest, sports, or whatever. Maybe they're follow up questions. There was a football game last night. How did you play? Student may respond, we played terrible. We lost by 35. Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that. But did we give up or did we fight to the end? Well, if we fought to the end, well, that's good. That's a life lesson. We can't give up. Things are going to be hard. They're not always going to go the way we plan. But we can't give up. We can keep fighting. And you can use those conversation answers to help encourage the student. Again, we have to be intentional and we have to put in the necessary effort to build them. It has to be part of the daily routine, part of our daily conversation, and it has to be genuine. Especially for those students who we have personality or conflicts with. When we have those clashes with those students, it's more important for them than for anybody else. Then encouragement, just like adults need to know, there are people who believe in us. We often assume that people should know this, that students should even know this, right? Uh, but sometimes they may know and may hear it, but who knows which one they're going to believe, right? So we have to say it often as we can. Simple word of encouragement can be the difference between an A and F. attendance or absence, peace or conflict, and even in extreme cases, life or death. Then support, right? If we're able to attend a game, a concert, a show, spend a little time listening to, or watching or finding information about something that interests students. These are ways that we can help build it. Then we can even circle back to those simple questions. Um, the truth is, education and learning is so much more than just teaching, right? Content. Like, a lot of us know the content, and that's the easy part. But the relationship building, the translation of content into application, that's kind of where we can find like a fuzzy area or a gray area. All right. But in order to be an effective teacher, we have to establish, build, and maintain these relationships with our students. So all of these ideas can make the students feel important. Not everyone gets the satisfaction at home or in their community of that feeling of knowing that, right? We have to be the catalyst to help the students see that not only are they important, but they can do great things, and not just now, but even in the future. There's not only important for the students who look like us, right? But this is also important for those that don't. Every student that graces our classroom deserves the same love, respect, and investment. Some of us do this automatically because it's our personality. Some of us have to be intentional about the application and process because it is not as natural for us. Again, especially when we talk about those students we have personality conflicts with. The benefits, though, far outweigh the work and effort that is going to be given to it uh, in the long run. If you want to see your students excel, set expectations, build that relationship, and watch them soar. Thank you for attending this session. Report the missing link. I will be available during the live period to answer questions. If you're viewing this after live sessions, feel free to contact me based off my information that is provided. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your morning and or afternoon.